Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me. In today's short lesson, I'm going to talk to you about a racing formula called Rule 62, sometimes Formula 62. Now this was created by the late great Walter Trice in his classic book Backgammon Boot Camp, a really indispensable backgammon resource that everybody should have as part of their backgammon library, whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, or even a master. It's full of useful advice. Buy a copy from BG Shop or Amazon and, refer to that book, yearly to just refresh your conceptual knowledge. And this is one idea in the book, Rule 62, comes up about a third of the way in, around page 135. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to tell you what it is, show you the calculations, and show you some positions and how to apply it. So in around 10 minutes, you'll have a much better idea, hopefully, of how to use this over the board. So let us begin. Now, there really are only two rules you need to know for Rule 62, and that is whether the leader's pip count is 62 pips or less, or is higher than 62. Now, here I have quite a lot of information, but don't worry, I will go into this in more detail when we look at positions, so do not be overwhelmed and stick with me. So firstly, when the leader's pip count is 62 pips or less, or fewer I should say, you subtract 5 from that amount and divide that by 7, rounding down, and then add the result to the leader's adjusted pip count, and that will find the point of last take for the opponent. Now, when the leader's pip count is higher than 62, the calculation is slightly different because we divide that total by 10 and we round up instead of down and add 1, adding the result to the leader's adjusted pip count to find the point of last take. Now, it's worth mentioning that this is for money, not for match play. So at match play, when you are at different scores to your opponent, you really only use this as a base level, and then you have to make adjustments because, of course, take points differ depending where you are in the match, whether you're leading or you're trailing. So Rule 62 works well for money, but for match play, you would need to make further adjustments. And one exception there in the brackets is that when the leader has an adjusted pip count of exactly 79 or 89, you add an additional 1 to a point of last take. So that is a small exception, but even Walter Trice says in Backgammon Boot Camp that you don't really need to remember that small adjustment. He goes so far to mention. So really focus on Rule 1 and Rule 2, dependent on the leader's pip count being 62 or less or higher than 62. So let's look at some positions to go into this. Now, here we have the first rule where the leader's pip count is 62 or less. We can see on the position that white's pip count is 54. Now we subtract 5 from that pip count, divide by 7, rounding down, adding the result to the leader's adjusted pip count to find the last point of take for green. And there on the bottom right, I've done the calculations. So 54 is white's pip count. We deduct 5, taking it to 49. 49 divided by 7 is 7. Sometimes we would round down. We add that 7 onto white's pip count. 54 plus 7 is 61. So 61 is a point of last take for green. So green's pip count, as you can see on the top, is 59. So therefore green should have an easy take, which indeed green does. So there we are. Now if green's pip count was 60, it would be a closer take. And if it was 62, it should be a pass, at least according to Trice's Rule 62. Now, if we look at the second rule, where white now has a pip count as a leader of more than 62, we have to make a slightly different calculation here. So now we divide the leader's pip count by 10, we round up instead of down and add 1, add the result to find the last point of take. So 63 divided by 10 is 6.3. We round that up to 7, add 1, which is 8. 63 plus 8 is 71. 71 is point of last take, and our green has 67. So here we can see it's a very big take because there is a greater margin between 67 and 71, and because the margin is quite big, it is almost a no double for white. So if green's pip count was 68, 69, 70, then the take would become smaller as it gets to the point of last take being 71, and if green's pip count was 72, then it should become a pass. Now, I have a few positions here for you to apply the maths yourself, so feel free to pause the video and have a go doing these, and then we will look afterwards. So here the leader's pip count is 62 or less. So what calculations do you need to do to determine whether green has a pass or a take? So we subtract 5, divide by 7, rounding down, add the result to find the last point of take. So 54 is the leader's pip count, minus 5, 49. 49 divided by 7. 54 plus 7, 61. 61 is point of last take. Green is very close on 60 pips, so this is a small take. So if green's pip count was 61, it would probably be borderline. So here, being on 60, we can see there on the XG panel that it is a small take because green's pip count is close to the point of last take, being on 60 pips. So here we have a double take. Now, on the second one, now the leader's pip count is more than 62, so we need to go to rule 2 and do those calculations. Can you remember what they are? So how they go, pause the video. So now we divide the leader's pip count by 10, round up and add 1, so rounding up instead of down, and we add that result to the adjusted pip count to find the last point of take. 63 divided by 10, 6.3, round up to 7 plus 1, 63 plus 8, 74. 71 is point of last take. So there we can see that green's pip count is 70. So again, it is a take, not a huge take, but it is still a take. So there we are. We kind of get the idea of what's a take and what's a pass. And this is pretty useful because otherwise you can pass takes, take passes, and end up losing equity, losing points, losing money. So Trice is pretty useful in working out these positions when you have 15 checkers and you're determining whether you should take or pass the cube. Now this is another one, the last one I want you to try out. So here the pip count is 59, so we go to rule 1, we subtract 5, divide by 7, rounding down, add the result, find last point of take. So 59 minus 5, 54, 54 divided by 7, then we have 59 plus 7, for leader's pip count plus 7 is 66. So 66 is a point of last take, so this should be a take for green, and you can actually see that it is borderline below, so it wouldn't really be wrong to take or pass this. Now I did roll this one out and it does become slightly more of a pass, but it's still quite borderline. So again, it points you in the right direction. Now it should be worth saying that Trice's count is correct around 70-75% of the time. So it's not going to be correct 100% of the time because no racing formula is, but it's better to know something 70-75% of the time than to not know it at all and stab in the dark in these positions. So it is useful as a simple and easy to learn racing method. Now, also, as well as working out when to take or pass, Trice's rule 62 can also tell us when to double and when to redouble, which is also pretty useful. Now here the leader can double when the trailer is 3 pips or more off his last take, and the leader can redouble when the trailer is 2 pips or more off his last take. So 3 pips for an initial double and 2 pips for a redouble, and we can work out the last take from doing the previous calculations. So this is useful to remember also. Now let's look at a couple of positions to show this. Now here we have an initial double. Remember, the leader can double when the trailer is 3 or more pips off his last take. So here green's last point of take is 67, and we can do the calculation 60 minus 5, 55 divided by 7, rounding down and adding to work out green's last point of take. And because green is 4 pips off the last take, white does have a small double. It's only a small double because it's 3 or more, and here we only have 4 pip difference from the point of last take. So there you can see that white has a small double on the right hand panel. Now for a redouble, we now need 2 or more pips rather than 3 for the initial double. So again, we can work out that green's last point of take is 54. We can do the math, 48 minus 5, 43 divided by 7, rounding down and adding. Now here green is not 2 pips off last take. Green's last point of take is 54 and green is on 54 pips. So white can't redouble because, as we saw at the top in bold, 2 or more pips off the last take. And here green is on 54. Green's last point of take is 54. So this isn't even a redouble for white. There needs to be more of a pip difference. So again, that's pretty useful to know when to double and when to redouble, when to take and when to pass. And here we have a short form there on the left, which is something very easy to remember, something you could take a photo of. Minus 5 divided by 7 round down, or divided by 10 round up, plus 1, switching, and the exception there on the bottom. And there we have Backgammon Bootcamp on the right. Now there are a few other things I just want to mention to finish with. Now Trice's Rule 62 doesn't work so well in pip counts under 20 pips. It's better to use eyesight and EPC for these decisions, and I have done a video on that, lesson 55, on my channel with Jeff Hall. Definitely worth checking that out, looking at eyesight when you take into account wastage or when you have more checkers born off. And Trice's Rule 62 is correct around 70 to 75% of the time, but it's better than knowing nothing. So certainly better to know something in these positions than know nothing at all. Nac Ballard has actually adapted this Rule 62 and developed it for a more precise model. So you can look online at the NAC 57 rule and the NAC 58 rule to see some further developments in these positions, and also check out my video on eyesight and EPC counting. So hopefully that's given you something to work with in terms of racing formula. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.